IABC Greater Cincinnati strives to be a resource for business communicators, and I am so thrilled to have with me today Kristal Howard, Head of Corporate Communications and Media Relations at the Kroger Company. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kristal.
Yeah, thank you, Jakidra, and to IABC for having me.
Can you share what your team does at Kroger?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's a really big question. It really depends on the day, the moment, the climate. Certainly as we are kind of recording here in June, for the past few months, my team has heavily been focused on crisis communications related to the COVID-19 pandemic. We had to quickly figure out, how do we safely operate in kind of this new world order during this kind of global health pandemic? How do we firstly keep our employees safe? How do we keep our customers safe? And then kind of a quick follow, how do we ensure when customers come into our stores, there's actually product on the shelf? So just kind of the work that went into keeping our supply chain healthy and functional was just a big accomplishment in itself. But when we are not in a crisis period, and I would certainly be remiss if I didn't, mention just kind of the unrest that's happening within our greater society and culture, resulting from just the tragic and horrific deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and so many other just individuals who just lost their lives senselessly. So my team has been greatly focused on that work and helping build the framework and strategy for the company. And it's hard to even imagine a world where we haven't been in crisis mode. Right. But when we are not doing that, kind of our number one charge is to tell the brand story. So that's leveraging external channels, internal channels, kind of our social impact levers, policy work. It's telling the Kroger story. So on any given day, either we're promoting the brand or we're protecting the brand. And we think of our work in kind of four different quadrants. One, it's license to operate. It's associate engagement. It's community and sustainability. And it's kind of, again, just providing our business with the license to be able to show up in communities and be wanted there.
Kroger's been around a long time. What are some of your favorite things you like to share about Kroger when you're talking to folks about Kroger?
Yeah, I think, you said it, Jakidra, Kroger has been around a long time, since 1883. And that's hard to fathom that, to work for a food retail brand that's been around since the 1800s. A lot has changed in the world, certainly within the past, 100 plus years, but even so much has changed in the last 5 years, the past 10 years, the way that people shop, the way that people eat. I gravitated toward Kroger. More broadly, I gravitated toward a career in communications and PR early on, just because I was always fascinated by the sociology of it all, the psychology of it all. I think in the past year, when I think about just the work that's really gotten me excited, one would be our food first work. It's telling the story of, not only can you come to Kroger for, again, your peppers and your strawberries and your sugar, but you're coming there to shop for an experience. I think kind of the unifying message of food, right? So no matter your race, no matter your background, your sexuality, your religion, we're all human, right? And grocery store is one of the few places, one of the few businesses that's really is a cross section of America. All are looking to create special moments around food for our family and friends. So that work really excites me. A lot of the work that we've been doing through our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste initiative really kind of lights a fire under me. And that is our initiative to create communities free of hunger and waste by the year 2025. So kind of we're about 3 years into that journey, and it's just been fascinating what we've been able to achieve in that window of time, understanding that we still have about 5 years ahead of us.
What role has communications played in Kroger's longevity?
Yeah, I think communications is critical. I think oftentimes, and I don't know what your experience has been, but I often think communications, until you're like in a crisis situation, doesn't always receive the proper acknowledgement. And without communication, without strategic, informative, thoughtful communication, um, it's hard to even go sell a thing. It's hard to influence a group of people. And again, when you think about the 500,000 employees that we have a team, of course, that's exclusively dedicated to internal communications, employee communications, ensuring that we are keeping them informed about what's happening within the business, that they feel supported, that they feel heard. It's really important within our internal communications platform that it's two-way. It's not just us speaking to associates and providing commands, but we genuinely listen to our employees, and we provide them with avenues and channels to provide feedback and insight that oftentimes like we apply immediately to the business in some form and capacity, or it helps to shape future programs and policies. When I think about the work that I do, I heavily focus on external communication with a greater emphasis on media relations. So it's telling the brand story, is working with the Wall Street Journal and Forbes and CNN to amplify the work that we are doing. So whether that's speaking about food, whether it's speaking about how we're supporting the community, or maybe it's new technology that we're rolling out. Just communications is so critical. You have operational communications, you have organizational communications. There are just so many different facets and buckets of communications that have been critical to the success and longevity of Kroger. And when I think about kind of the week that I'm going into right now, in about a week or so, we announced our Q1 kind of financial performance. So like that's another form of communication. So that's financial comms and investor relations, but especially working for a publicly traded company that is ranked as Fortune 23. Communications is so critical to keep kind of just everyone in the business informed and growing in the same direction. Very matrix, it's complex. But really, it's important to have kind of a North Star. So kind of we are grounded in our purpose, and our purpose is to feed the human spirit, right? So when you have that North Star, everything else kind of rallies around it. And Jaquidra, last fall in November 2019, we launched a new kind of master brand, if you will, as one way to kind of tie together all of these various offerings and services and brands that we have. You may not realize it, but here in Cincinnati, we're known as Kroger. But if you go out to California, we operate as Ralph's. If you're in Washington, D.C., we operate as Harris Teeter. So not only do we have different products and services within the four walls of the store, we also have different brand names. So it's like a part of our kind of master brand launch was to give the same identity to all of our brands, not rebranding them all as Kroger, but ensuring that our marketing platforms show up the same way, ensuring that we have the same tone, we have the same voice, no matter what we're talking about, no matter the city that we're in, there should be distinguishable aspects, attributes of the Kroger brand that kind of tie it all together, no matter where you're at, that you'll quickly recognize, all right, I'm in a Kroger-owned store. But it's complex. It takes a mighty team of people to make it happen. It takes, the communications team working very closely with the marketing group, which includes the social media team. It takes us working closely with the technology team and the customer call center team, but it really takes us being kind of lockstep.
Yes.
It's beneficial to get feedback, right? And kind of different viewpoints opposed to just kind of working in the vacuum that is the communications team. But it's been just so insightful the past few months of kind of tapping my friends over in marketing or different departments to go, hey, what do you see? How does this sound? How does this look? And certainly, it adds a little more time, but it's been instrumental in taking things from good to great.
For as much as you, can share, what are some of the things Kroger is doing to, for lack of a better term, respond right now, short term, long term, however you think, could be helpful for folks to know about?
Yeah, no, I think really for, posing that question. And certainly the past few weeks they've been hard, right? Both personally and professionally. And you use the word hard. It's been painful. It's been challenging. But I'm excited, not excited that change is happening under these circumstances, but like a movement is in motion. And exactly as you mentioned, like I can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. One company can't do it alone. One government agency can't do it alone. But it's going to take kind of collective action and energy. And I feel that it's happening. So from a Kroger standpoint, our contribution is understanding we're one of the country's largest employers. We have more than 11 million customers come in our stores every single day. When you think we've made a commitment to step out and to stand up and say something. And for us, like I worked really closely with my team last week to begin kind of building a deeper framework. Of course, we've always have done, enough, if you will, in the D&I space. Never enough, but again, a sufficient amount. But again, in today's culture and society, customers are looking to you. Employees are looking to you to go, okay, what else? That's great. That's table stakes. Like we expect that of any company, but how are you using and leveraging your privilege and your power and your access to bring about true reform and change in our society? So for us, it was step one. It was acknowledging and speaking out that there's an issue, right? There's an issue in greater society. There are still just great injustices that are happening. In order to solve for a thing, to fix a thing, you have to say it and you have to name it. So really that was our first step. This week we are beginning to host listening sessions with our employees where a lot of members of our leadership team is just listening. Understanding that oftentimes employees, myself included, we have so many great ideas, but then we also have so many frustrations that in the past, maybe we weren't comfortable talking about. So I think just kind of starting with listening and allowing those insights to help inform our kind of path forward and our move forward strategy. I think never before has communications been so critical. I think, we are living in kind of a history-making moment, whether if you look at how political campaigns are being run or how businesses and brands are showing up and speaking out on societal ills and topics. If you think about just the world of social media, I've never been happier nor more invigorated kind of just with my career path and the work that I do than now, because I think, again, we always talk about this proverbial seat at the table. The communications team is there, right? I've even seen a shift over the past few years within my organization where, in the past, perhaps, after a product was already baked, they bring us in and they're like, okay, help us amplify this. But now, kind of at mile marker 1, we're being invited to be at that table to help develop the plan in the strategy, because I think there's an awakening and kind of the value, the great immense value that communications professionals can offer to businesses and to colleagues. So it's a overwhelming time, but it's a really exciting time. And I would encourage anyone listening to this, use this time to build your platform, to build your voice, and to leave your mark.